All right, I'm in Los Angeles. We are with Julio from
Yeah.
A.G.C, Alternative Gathering Collective, punk rock collective from what, 20 years ago or 19 years ago?
19 years ago, yeah.
Okay, before I get to the interview, I just want to let people know back then, from walking distance, we had the Lunar Soul Cafe, which
Yeah.
is vegetarian run collective cafe. And then in that Lunar Soul Cafe, I had the activist store, like an info shop thing.
Yeah.
Like zines, all kinds of stuff. Then walking distance from there was a Lafayette Community Center where we had shows. And then walking distance from there was Arts in Action, where other places we
Yeah,
had shows
that's
as
cool.
well. And then also at Lafayette, we had Picnic, and we had Two Hill Fest there. And then crazy thing is, 1 block away from Luna Soul, Scott was living there. We had
Yeah, it
meetings
was
at
very-
Scott's house. Then we were having meeting at my place. I was just a block away and stuff. Everything was walking distance and everything. Okay, now we're gonna ask a couple questions about who the Alternative Gathering Collective,
Yeah.
punk rock collective. Can you give us a little bit of information about A.G.C?
Yeah, so I mean, at least at the time, I was 19 years old, 20 years old, pretty young. It was just like a collective of some young people, some older punks, but I think we were just all interested in working on something within the punk counterculture, and to kind of give it some politics, give it some ideas. So we were interested in generally anarchist stuff, animal liberation, green anarchist type stuff at the time, which was really popular at the time. And yeah, and we used to put on shows, used to put on events, used to hang out, yeah.
And we have meetings every Sunday.
Pretty much every Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And how come there's no punk collective nowadays now? Like that?
At least from what I can tell, I think, I don't know how,
In Los Angeles.
in Los Angeles, yeah, in Los Angeles, I don't know how political the punk scene is now. I think that, the punk scene is probably bigger than it's ever been,
Right.
but I don't think it's as explicitly political as it once was, at least from what I know, because I'm not really involved in the scene anymore, I could be wrong. But I also think now, it's really easy to socialize, on the internet and everything, so I think, going to shows back in the day was the way you socialize,
Right.
So like you had to leave the fucking house and go somewhere, even though sometimes you didn't want to, otherwise you're just isolated and alone,
Yes. And I remember the A.G.C. All the A.G.C. shows you guys put out, there was always speakers between bands.
Oh yeah.
And the Ron had like literatures, all kinds of literature, or pick up
Yeah.
zines, literature, and in the other area they were selling vegan food
Yeah, we always have food.
and all that stuff. I don't see shows like that. It's like rare.
I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. I think it could be all kinds of stuff. It could just be the rent gentrification in Los Angeles makes it harder to live in Los Angeles. So like if you're like a poor punk kid, it's hard to live in Los Angeles. So I'm sure there's probably maybe activity outside of Los Angeles that's a lot more prominent, but gentrification in Los Angeles is so fucking deep and real that it's hard to imagine having time or money to like not give away, but to like work on projects like this.
But I would think because like a lot of the A.G.C. kids back then, the members and stuff, they came from tough neighborhoods and all that too. And then getting into punk and all this radical politics, I would think if there's gentrification, people will get more radical, more political, and more like that.
Maybe, I mean, I agree because a lot of the people from the A.G.C. were from like immigrant parents background, or they were immigrants themselves, so I think it could just be part of the like punk becoming less political, or maybe it's political in a way where they might say certain slogans or certain ideas, but there's no real activity behind it. And so I think before, at least for me, from the way I felt about it, if I'm saying it, I'm going to be doing something about it, and I don't know if maybe there's a certain disconnect now. Like I said, I'm not involved with I'm not too plugged into the scene now, so I could be wrong.
No, we're just making this video so a lot of people don't know how the scene was back then. And the crazy thing is we didn't have camera. I wish we would document all this.
Yeah.
A lot of us did not save fucking flyers from the benefit show. It pisses me off.
I used to keep some flyers, but I think over time, when I got burnt out at a certain point with punk stuff, I started giving stuff away.
Yeah, same here.
Flyers, posters, records, T-shirts.
I wish I would have kept all that for
No, I
memories.
even like the Resist Exist shirt I had back in the day. I think you gave it to me, and I think someone wore it out of my house once after a party, and now it's gone forever. And I wish I would have kept it. Yeah.
I just wish we would have took photos during like the Hill Fest, Human Earth Animal Liberation Gathering,
Yeah.
and that when A.G.C put out like the protest,
Yeah.
Animal Liberation Week or whatever. And also people don't know this. We also did like film nights at Luna Soul Cafe. We did a huge anarchist like open discussion. Everybody was there, like group studies. We invited Michael Zinzin and maybe how to build a stronger collective. They were talking about the 60s movement at Luna Soul. We did all kinds of stuff and no one took photos. It pissed me off. Our history's erased.
I think what it is, also back then you had like the Green Scare, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
So you had
people were going to jail.
So people were going to jail. So people who were involved with that, with the anarchist shit and animal liberation stuff, were actually doing stuff and getting caught. And I saw there was like a super hyper paranoid, security culture. So like no cell phones, no pictures, no recordings, to a fault. You know what I mean? Because if you just take a picture with it hanging out with your friends, I don't see what the big deal is. But I think at the time we were just afraid. So if you saw like a white van parked across the street, you're like, it's the fucking feds.
Do you remember, I don't know if you remember this, it was with Social Conflict Everyone, right after the A.G.C meeting we came out, there was a car parked a block away with no license plate. This is during the Hill Fest and everything. We're just tripping out. We're going, what the fuck?
I'm very sure. Because John Zerzin was at the Heel gathering, right? Yeah. So that's probably the reason why. I'm pretty sure there was surveillance. Actually, there came out that we were being surveilled.
Yes, later. Well, way later on.
Later
on. Not right away. Not when this was going on. Way later on the internet.
Yeah.
Then like the whole printout with all the not in count. Well, somebody was traveling. Was an undercover. I forgot, some undercover cop or something was acting like a punk after this.
Okay.
It was, but way later.
Yeah.
A.G.C, food not bombs, everything, civilians and stuff like that. What are your some favorite memories from A.G.C?
I guess like one of my favorite memories is we took a group trip to Arizona once. We just decided like last minute, let's get 10 of us. We got it. I had a van at the time. I had a shitty Toyota Previa. We drove out to Phoenix overnight. Crashed at Contravene's house.
I miss Contravene.
Yeah, they were a punk band from Phoenix. We stayed out there. We hung out. Went to the show. Next day, we went to Flagstaff. We met some anarcho punks out there. We stayed out there. We camped out in the woods. And it was dope. It was dope because at the time I was young, so I didn't really travel that much. And so it was cool to like see other punk communities around, so it was fun.
Right. And back then we didn't care about, personally me, I didn't care what race people were, I didn't care what sex people were, but I noticed in A.G.C was majority all like non-whites. Majority were non-whites and there was a lot of women. And we didn't plan that way, it just happened. How did it happen?
I think let's wait for this helicopter. I think as far as like the diversity of A.G.C, I think it's just a part of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is like I tell people, like even though people think of Hollywood when they think of LA and they think it's like a very white city, it's a very not white city. And so I think the punk scene, especially like coming out of the 90s, specifically the Latino punk scene in the U.S. was very vibrant and very powerful. And I think, there was a lot of Latinos in the collective because of that, So I think that's part of the reason why it was so diverse. Like, it's just a byproduct of the city. Like, the city is very diverse, so the collective is going to be very diverse. And, like, one of the things I always tell people when I was coming up, I grew up in the LA East Side, all my punk friends were not white. I didn't have any white punk friends, and so that was my normal. So to me, the A.G.C was normal. And there was always, a lot of women in the punk scene too. People who were queer. That was just a given. Like, it wasn't something we would think about. Of course, we would try to be inclusive, but we didn't have to try to be inclusive because everybody was there.
And what was really interesting during the meeting, Like everybody would be in circle. You had a note taker, you had a facilitator. Before the meeting started, there was all these agenda. What we're gonna do? This is our goal. This is a beneficial. Somebody's gonna propose another beneficial. That was really interesting time. I mean, I don't see like that in a punk scene here in LA at all. It's just like so much things changed.
For some reason we were just really motivated. I don't know. I don't know what it was, that we were all just very action orientated. Like it wasn't, we weren't, I mean, we would talk about ideas between, you know, in conversations with each other, and we all had like kind of different politics, even though you could always say we're kind of anarchists, but we were like different kinds of anarchists, so we had different focuses. But I lost my train of thought.
You say we're different types of anarchists.
Oh yeah, so but you know, we were action oriented, like we wanted to do something, you know. Maybe that's a part of youth, but you know, I don't know, we were just...
And the smell, we also did events at Smell.
We did like a couple events at the Smell.
And here's what's interesting too, then the Long Beach, they had their own scene. They had the Anarchist Info Shop there. At that time, it was, oh gosh, Erica moved there, Sherman, Jeff, and all these, what I forgot what street it was on, but it was a storefront, full-on Anarchist Info Shop.
Yeah.
And right next to it, they had a co-op house and everything. They did their own stuff and all that. It was very interesting time.
Well, I think also like this was, you know, I'll say it again about gentrification. It's just, you know, it's hard to have spaces in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's true. Now it's hard to get houses.
It's hard to get houses. Like, you know, you have to have incredible credit. You have to have all this money for your deposit. Otherwise, they won't even like accept you. Let alone a bunch of like weird-looking punk kids. You know, they're not gonna want you to move in. So I think at the time, you know, people took advantage of the fact that you could get a storefront in Long Beach, or you know, or in other parts of LA. You know, and now that's like super difficult. You know.
Yes. That's true, because now even like warehouse space like that, you need a permit. That's why like the anarchist gathering during DNC was easy. Now you got to get all these permit and all that stuff. What's your favorite memory from the anarchist gathering during the DNC time?
I think.
Or has it been too long?
No, I remember, but I think like I didn't spend too much time at the conference or gathering. I forget what it was called, but I did spend some time in front of the DNC with some people, you know,
that was like the biggest black bloc there.
Antagonizing the cops. I won't say too much, but it was an important part of my life because, you know, it showed me the power of like being in the group of people who are committed to what they want to do. You know, even though in your head it feels like it's like some not so, you know, reasonable idea, but like if you have enough friends and enough people who want to do something, you can do it. You know, of course we didn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, but you know, it's a powerful feeling. Yeah.
And you know what's tripped you? Back then when we go to shows like Lafayette or the Smell Arts in Action, we don't see people using drugs. I mean, of course there's once in a while people drinking, but it'll be far away. But we like people don't drink in there or like that. We didn't see people. I mean, our friends, a couple of our friends drink, but the show were more like just different. It was more positive and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe we're more idealistic, because I'm not sure why. But yeah, I remember like there wasn't a problem like that. You know, we were like, hey, don't drink in the space.
Right.
And people would just like go around the corner and go drink in the alleyway or whatever. And I didn't really care. You know, because the point was like we didn't have a lot of spaces, so let's protect the spaces we have.
Yeah.
And it seemed like people were interested in that because they knew that, you know, spaces like us doing shows at Lafayette doesn't happen all the time. Yeah.
My funny memory of the A.G.C meeting was at Scott's house. There was about like 25 of us, and I would say about 60% were all like straight edge, like vegan. I mean, they don't claim straight edge vegan, but like they didn't drink or do drugs or anything. And Total Gas walks in at the meeting with 12-pack coming in. That was my funniest memory. And everybody was all quiet. I was biting my cheek, and everybody was trying not to laugh. That's when they did a show at Lafayette Community Center, that benefit show.
I don't think I went to that show.
But so we had a lot of shows in Lafayette.
Probably like
bands.
15 shows or probably more. Like,
and the Smell and Arts in Action.
Yeah.
No, way more than 15.
We had a couple at Arts and
we also did like regular with hardcore bands.
Yeah, we had
all kinds of
that's what was
Yeah.
interesting. It wasn't just like typical anarcho punk
Yeah, it was
bands.
always
Like
mixed.
there was, and like I remember we screened the the documentary by Martin of Los Crudos
That
Beyond
was
the
a cool
Screams.
video. That was
And
really
that was
cool.
amazing, and
Right.
now, even now when I watch it, I'm like, I'm really glad he made this, because even though it's documenting the 90s more, the fact that it documented it at all is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the interview, and
For sure.
we're gonna actually, in a couple months, we're gonna combine different interviews with all the agency people. We're gonna put flyers and like everything. All right. Thanks.
Cool, man.